March 31st, 1970, 7:33 a.m. A normal domestic flight was flying over Japan, but within minutes, this flight turned into one of the most horrific hijackings in history. Flight 351, 122 passengers, 7 crew, everyone busy in their own way. Some talking, some looking out the window. A completely ordinary morning. But suddenly a passenger stood up, slowly walked towards the cockpit. No one understood yet. This was the beginning of the danger. He stood in front of the cockpit door and paused for a moment, then slowly knocked on the door. The pilot thought maybe he had made a mistake, so he asked him to return to his seat. But then he took out a samurai sword from his jacket and he grabbed the pilot by the throat and said, "Turn this plane towards North Korea now." 55 years ago today, a terrible plane hijacking occurred in Japanese history. The boy stood in the middle of the cabin and said in a calm voice, "This plane has now been hijacked." But surprisingly, nobody takes it seriously because even then, people couldn't believe that something like that could be true. But after a few seconds, he raises the sword again, this time. No one doubts. The laughter stops, the fear begins. Just then, a few more people stood up from inside the plane. 1 or 2 or 9 in total, all young, all a team. They had swords, knives, guns, and in an instant the entire plane was under their control. Now panic spreads throughout the cabin. Screams, crying, chaos. Everybody understands. They are now prisoners. But here was something strange. One of these hijackers was a well-known guitarist. I mean, it's clear it wasn't just money or crime, there was something bigger behind it. In a moment, they took control of the passengers, especially tying up the men so that no one could resist. Then they moved towards the cockpit, hit the door, and within seconds, broke it down. They surrounded the pilots and this time gave new orders. Take this plane to Cuba. But this order was the biggest weakness of their plan. This hijacking was not for money nor personal revenge. It was an ideology, a belief that brought them this far. After World War II, Japan was slowly turning around. But the change was driven by American influence and not everyone took it well. There was a growing resentment, especially among the young, that their country was slowly falling under someone else's control. From this anger arose a radical organization, the Red Army. Their goal was one: a revolution. They believed that the entire system had to be changed, not just in Japan, but throughout the world. And that's why they come up with a strange plan, a plane hijack that will catch the attention of the whole world. The most surprising thing is they practiced this entire operation. Where do you know? In a college classroom, arranged tables and chairs to look like a plane. Who will get up and when? Who will go into the cockpit? Who will control the passengers? Everything was practiced over and over again. But just a few days before the hijack, their leader was arrested. Nevertheless, the remaining members did not stop. Their plan was perfect on paper, but reality always shows otherwise, and that reality is now slowly coming to light. Finally, the plane is forced to land in Fukuoka because it is almost out of fuel, and from here, a new chapter of events begins. As soon as the plane landed, the security media police surrounded the entire airport. Everyone knows this is no longer a common occurrence. Now begins a negotiation between the government and the hijackers. Both sides know a wrong decision means disaster. The hijackers now make their real demands. They want to go to North Korea because they believe they will be welcomed there. But the Japanese government knew that this plane didn't have enough fuel, so they started to take their time slowly. A plan was being developed. A deal is made in exchange for fuel. Some passengers must be released, and the hijackers agree to it. But behind the scenes, another force is joining in, one that didn't want this plane to reach North Korea. They decide if the hijackers want to go to North Korea, then they will go But where they will be sent? Then began pitch. An incredible preparation to make an airport completely like another country. Flags are changed, uniforms are changed, even people are brought into act. Everything is arranged so perfectly so that no one suspects a completely false reality, where there is no difference between truth and falsehood. Finally, Flight 351 is back in the sky. Destination North Korea. At least that's what the hijackers thought. Inside the plane, silent terror. No one is talking, some are sitting with their eyes closed. Everyone is thinking to themselves, this might be the last journey of their lives. The pilots tried repeatedly to contact North Korea, but there was no response, only silence. The plane slowly entered a dangerous area where at any moment they could be shot at, mistaken for enemies. Suddenly, 2 fighter jets surrounded the plane, fired a few rounds, and the entire cabin froze in fear. Then, a voice came over the radio. This is Pyongyang, respond. Finally, contact was established. After explaining the situation, they were allowed to land and the fighter jets began to guide them. After landing at the airport, everything looked perfect. Flag, army, everything like North Korea. Even a welcome ceremony was organized for them. People waving and welcoming, schoolgirls singing, everything like a dream. But everything starts to seem so perfect. And then a hijacker notices something strange. A bus approaches and the leader of the hijackers asks, "Is this Seoul?" For a second, everything stops. The driver says, "Yes." And right then everything collapses because they realize they are not in North Korea, they are in Seoul. After learning the truth, everything suddenly stops. The hijackers realize that they have been cheated and the situation becomes unstable again. They immediately closed the plane door and everyone was trapped again. And this time their behavior became even more harsh. Meanwhile, the outside authorities also understand their plan has failed now. Any wrong decision could be fatal. Various plans came up, special operations using gas or mixing drugs with food, but none were safe. And then an incredible decision was made, one that has rarely been seen before in history. A new deal is made that all the passengers will be released, and in exchange that an important person will be given. A Japanese vice minister, risking his own life, voluntarily boards a plane just to save others. One by one, all the passengers get off the plane. 122 people's lives are finally saved. Now on the plane are hijackers, pilots, and that one minister, and it begins. The last journey. This time they really flew towards North Korea, and after some time finally reached their destination. But here, the story takes a new turn, because what was supposed to happen didn't actually happen at all. As soon as it landed, the army surrounded the entire plane, controlling its every movement. Then comes the most surprising truth. All the hijackers' weapons were fake. Swords, guns, even bombs. But surprisingly, they were not arrested instead. They were welcomed. They are taken to a hotel where they are treated like special guests. On the other hand, the pilot and the minister were allowed to return, and after a few days they returned to Japan. And the hijackers, they stay in North Korea and start a new life. But that life was not so ordinary. As time went by, many of them got involved with secret work. Some are caught, some die, and the rest still exist somewhere in an unknown life. A group of college students, a fake weapon, and an impossible dream. They wanted to change the world, but in the end, they themselves were lost in history